While my son was in the hospital, my family never came. 3 days later, Mom texted, "Can you send $4,000 for your brother's honeymoon surprise?" I just blocked her. The next morning, my dad called 27 times. When I picked up, he was screaming and said, "When my 7-year-old son was rushed into emergency surgery, I didn't even hesitate. I threw my phone in my bag, told my boss I wouldn't be in for a week, and stayed in that hospital for 8 straight days. What I didn't expect was that in those 8 days, not a single member of my family called, texted, or even reacted to the message I'd sent in the family group chat. Not my mom, not my dad, not even my brother Ryan. And they all read it. I know that for sure, because the little scene icons were sitting there under my message. I had written, "Noah's in the ER. They think it's appendicitis. I'll update you." That was the last time I messaged them. What kind of grandparents don't even ask if their grandson is alive? What kind of uncle ignores his own nephew in the hospital? I had to sleep in a hospital chair for nearly a week. I watched my son struggle to eat ice chips without throwing up. I held a vomit bag for him at 3 in the morning and argued with nurses about his medication. I posted an update on Facebook because I honestly thought maybe my family would care more if strangers saw it. They didn't comment. My mom liked the post. That's it. Noah pulled through. The surgery went well. I took him home 8 days later, exhausted, my back messed up from sleeping in a chair. I carried him up the stairs like when he was a baby. I tucked him into his own bed and cried on the floor next to him for an hour because I had been holding everything in. 3 days later, my phone buzzed. A text from my mom. "Hey, Alicia, can you send $4,000 for your brother's honeymoon surprise? We want to get them a private island resort for a few days. He deserves it so much. Let me know ASAP." That was it. No mention of Noah, no "how are you," not even a hope everything went okay. I stared at it for a long time. I don't know what I was expecting. Maybe a weird apology, maybe something passive-aggressive, but this was a whole new level. I didn't reply. I blocked her. The next morning, my phone lit up at 6:02 a.m. I let it ring. Again at 6:07, 6:11, 6:14, 6:22. By the time I picked up, it was call number 27. I only answered because I thought maybe something had happened to someone. The second I said hello, he was already screaming. Not angry, furious, like I had committed a crime. He demanded to know why I blocked Mom, said she was crying all night, that I was trying to ruin Ryan's wedding, that I was selfish. I didn't say much. I just listened until he said, "You're a bitter, jealous woman, and I'm ashamed you're my daughter." That's when I hung up, and that's when I decided I was done, but not quietly. Because there were things my family didn't know. About Ryan's sweet, perfect fiancé, about the friend she met 6 months before the engagement, about what she told me when she thought I was too weak to do anything. They thought I'd stay silent. They thought wrong. I hadn't planned to say anything, not when I first found out. Not when she smiled in my face at Thanksgiving like we were best friends. Not even when Ryan announced their engagement 2 weeks later and my parents acted like they'd won the lottery. But after that phone call with my dad, something in me snapped. They had erased Noah's existence from their lives for 8 days, then called me jealous for not wanting to fund a luxury honeymoon. Oh, they didn't get to pretend to be this perfect family anymore. The first time I met Ryan's fiancée, Chelsea, I tried to like her. She was beautiful, well-spoken, one of those women who always had her nails done and never had a hair out of place. My parents were obsessed with her. Ryan had always been their golden child, but when he brought Chelsea home, he practically became a celebrity. Every conversation suddenly revolved around their wedding, their future house, how lucky Ryan was to have found someone so high class. What nobody knew was that 2 weeks after Ryan proposed, Chelsea messaged me out of nowhere on Instagram. She said she wanted to grab coffee, just the two of us. She called it a girls-only bonding moment. I didn't want to go, but I did. I thought maybe she was trying to build a real connection. Instead, she treated it like a confession booth. She told me Ryan was a safe bet, that her ex, Nick, Ryan's old college friend, was still in her life, that she couldn't shake the spark between them, but she needed someone stable. She said those words exactly. I need someone stable. Ryan is stable. Nick is not. I remember sitting there just blinking at her. Then she laughed like it was some inside joke. Told me not to tell anyone, obviously. Said she could trust me because I looked too exhausted to cause drama. That was 2 months before Noah's surgery. I saved the screenshots. I wasn't even sure why at the time. Maybe something in me knew. After my dad's 27 calls and the screaming, I sat on my bed for about an hour, staring at my phone. Then I opened those messages again, read every word, took screenshots of our entire conversation, including the part where she said she would marry Ryan even if Nick was still around because you marry the one who makes sense. That night, I wrote a single message and sent it to my brother. I told him I didn't want to hurt him. I told him I wouldn't normally interfere, but I wasn't going to watch him build a life with someone who was using him. Then I attached the screenshots. I didn't sleep that night. I expected rage, silence, maybe even more screaming from my parents. What I got was something I never could have predicted, because the next morning Ryan was standing on my porch alone. He looked like he hadn't slept either. He didn't say anything at first. He just handed me his phone. It was a picture of Chelsea, pig kissing, dated last week. Ryan didn't look like himself when he showed up at my door. He looked like someone who had just stepped out of a wreck but hadn't realized he was bleeding yet. He held out his phone without saying a word. On the screen was a photo of Chelsea and Nick outside a bar, Nick's hand on her waist, her face buried in his neck, kissing him like they were in a relationship. Not like she was engaged. Not like she was supposed to be planning a wedding with my brother. I expected him to explode. Cry, maybe. Start blaming me, like always. But instead, his voice was flat. I was going to propose again next month, he said. I blinked. Wait, again? He nodded. Chelsea didn't like the first ring. Mom picked it, and apparently it wasn't mature enough for her. So Ryan spent over $3,000 on another one behind everyone's back. He said he wanted to make it special. That made me sick to my stomach. I told him he needed to confront her immediately. He said he already had, the night before. And here's where it got strange. Chelsea didn't even bother lying. No tears, no dramatic apology. She looked at him and said, "I thought you knew." As if cheating was a misunderstanding. As if she just forgot to mention it. Then she packed a bag, walked out of his apartment, and drove straight to my parents' house. Not to cry, not to explain, but to win. She made coffee in their kitchen like she lived there. Told them Ryan was having a mental breakdown and that I was trying to destroy their engagement because I was still bitter that my marriage fell apart. She said I faked the screenshots. My mom believed her instantly. Told Chelsea she didn't deserve to be treated like that. Told her she was always welcome in our home. Ryan tried to speak up. Told them she admitted everything. My mom said, "You misunderstood. He loves you." Alicia always twists things. So he left. Walked out. He sat on my couch with his head in his hands while my phone started ringing again. My dad, for the third time that morning. This time I picked up and put him on speaker. He didn't even say hi. He just started ranting. Said I was ruining the family. Said I was obsessed with making Ryan look bad, that Chelsea had explained everything, and it was just a harmless misunderstanding. And then Ryan did something I honestly never thought I'd see him do. He grabbed the phone. "I saw her with Nick," he said. "I have the proof. Alicia didn't fake anything." He was right. There was this long, cold silence. Then my dad hung up. Ryan stared at the screen for a second, then looked at me. "Why do they always believe everyone but you?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. But that sentence hit something deep. It unlocked something I had buried for almost 2 decades. Because this wasn't the first time they called me a liar to protect someone else. The first time was when I was 17, and that story, that secret, was still buried in a photo album in Mom's attic. I hadn't thought about it in years, but now it suddenly felt very, very relevant. The last time I was in my mom's attic was the summer after my divorce. She had told me to drop off some boxes, then basically shoved me out the door. She didn't want me in the house too long, said my energy was too heavy. But I remembered something. On a dusty shelf above the old Christmas decorations, there was a stack of photo albums my mom never let anyone touch. One of them had my name on the spine. The only one. I didn't go up there for nostalgia. I went to prove something to myself. Mostly that what happened to me at 17 actually happened, even though my family had spent years pretending it didn't. Ryan came with me. I didn't ask. He just followed me out to the car like he was done pretending too. We didn't talk during the drive. When we got to the house, no one was home. My parents were out, probably with Chelsea, trying to comfort her. I still had a key. The attic was exactly how I remembered it. Hot, crowded. Everything smelled like old insulation and cinnamon potpourri. I found the photo album fast. Green leather, cracked along the edges, with my name written in silver marker. The pages were in perfect condition, almost like someone had gone through it recently. I flipped past birthday pictures, awkward school dance photos, a few class awards Mom had taped in. Then I got to the page I was looking for. My 17th birthday. There was a photo of me with our cousin Nate, one of the only pictures my mom ever framed. Nate had driven in from college that weekend. Everyone loved him. He was older, funny, charming, too charming. The next photo was me sitting by myself, looking like I'd seen a ghost. That was the day I told my parents what Nate had said to me. what he tried to do when we were alone in the garage. They didn't believe me. My dad said I was exaggerating. My mom said Nate just likes to joke around. She told me not to say anything else unless I wanted to tear the family apart. I never saw that photo again until now. But it wasn't the picture that stopped me. It was the note written under it in my mother's handwriting. Alicia being dramatic again. My hands went cold. I didn't say anything. I just turned the album around and showed it to Ryan. He read it. Then he sat back on the floor and didn't speak for a full minute. When he finally looked at me, his whole face had changed. "You told them back then," he said. "I thought you made it up." I didn't respond. He rubbed his face like he was trying to erase the last 15 years. Then he said something I never expected to hear from my brother. "I'm sorry. Not just for now, for all of it." He said he was done. With Chelsea, with our parents. He didn't care if they threw a fit or tried to guilt him back in. He asked me if I wanted to be the one to tell them about Chelsea, about the photos, about everything. I said no, not yet, because I had one more thing I needed to do first. Something I'd been waiting a long time to do, and it involved Chelsea's ex, Nick. I didn't reach out to Nick for revenge. Not exactly. At first, I just wanted to know what kind of man helps wreck an engagement like it's a game. He replied within 5 minutes. "Yeah," he said. "I figured someone would reach out eventually." We met at a coffee shop downtown. I expected some smug, overconfident guy who'd try to defend himself, or maybe act like Chelsea had manipulated him. What I didn't expect was how open he was. Too open, honestly. Nick leaned back in his chair, like he'd been waiting to unload something. He said Chelsea was never honest about anything. Not with him, not with Ryan. He said he cut things off weeks ago, when she told him she'd still marry Ryan, but keep Nick around. She called it her backup plan. That part didn't shock me, but the next part did. Nick said Chelsea had made it clear she wasn't marrying Ryan for love. She was marrying into our family. She talked constantly about how much money my parents had, about how Ryan was the favorite, about how she wanted to be the wife everyone envied. She also told Nick that my mom promised to help them buy their first house. Not just help, pay for it outright. I blinked. That was news to me. Then Nick pulled out his phone and showed me texts, screenshots from Chelsea bragging about how Alicia's a mess and that I'd never get a cent from the will anyway, that she had already seen the will. Apparently, last month my mom had shown it to her, said she wanted Chelsea to feel secure and that she was part of the family now. Meanwhile, I didn't even know there was a new will. Nick said Chelsea's whole plan was to lock herself into the family before Ryan ever got smart enough to notice. She didn't want to marry him. She wanted to marry the lifestyle. I thanked him and left. I didn't owe him anything, but for the first time, I actually believed him. Back at my place, Ryan was pacing when I walked in. He said he was getting texts from Chelsea, from my mom, from everyone. Chelsea was saying I'd stolen Ryan from her. My mom was telling him to apologize, to fix it before it was too late. So I made a decision. I printed every screenshot Nick had shared, every message, every text. I included the ones where Chelsea mocked my divorce. I included the line about the will. Then I sent the entire packet to my parents. Printed, in an envelope. No note, no explanation. Just the truth. The fallout took less than 12 hours. The next morning, my mom called. Not me. Ryan. Over and over. He let it ring. Then my dad texted him. "I can't believe you gave those to Alicia." That was the moment Ryan realized something I had known for years. It wasn't about Chelsea. It was about control, about choosing image over truth. He looked at me and said, "We should have done this years ago." I told him, "It's never too late to stop letting people ruin your life just because they share your last name." And then, as if the universe wanted to add one final twist, my mom showed up at my door. Alone. And crying. She didn't knock like a mother visiting her daughter. She knocked like she owned the place. 2 short taps. Pause. Then another. I hadn't heard that rhythm since high school, and it sent something cold through my spine. I almost didn't answer. I could see her through the window beside the door. Her makeup was done. Hair perfect. Like she was trying to control the narrative before it even started. I opened the door halfway. She looked surprised. Maybe because I didn't invite her in. She didn't ask how Noah was doing. She didn't ask how I was doing. She got right to the point. How could I humiliate Chelsea like that? Did I realize what I'd done to the family? That I'd torn it apart? I asked her if she ever once considered what Chelsea had done to Ryan. Or to me. Or if she remembered that Chelsea's betrayal wasn't made up. It was real, provable, and she'd seen the proof herself. She looked me straight in the face and said, "You always make things worse, Alicia. You should have come to us first." That's when I realized she never read all of it. Or she did and just didn't care. I told her about the night in the hospital. About Noah crying at 2 a.m. because he wanted his grandma. About how I lied to him and said she was busy instead of telling him the truth. that she didn't even text to check if he was okay. She opened her mouth like she had a comeback, but nothing came out. Her fingers curled tighter around the strap of her purse, and I could tell she hated that I wasn't crying, or yelling, or trying to guilt her back. She asked if Ryan was there. I said yes. She asked to talk to him. I told her he didn't want to. That's when her tone changed. She said I'd always been jealous of Ryan, of Chelsea, of the fact that I was never the one who got chosen. And that was the moment I finally understood what had been wrong all along. It was never about who was right. It was about who was useful, obedient, easier to handle. Chelsea played the part. I didn't. I told her I wasn't interested in fixing anything, that the door, literal and otherwise, was staying closed from now on. Then I asked her one last question. Did you even love Noah? Or did you just tolerate him because he came from me? She didn't answer. I closed the door without saying goodbye. Ryan didn't ask what she said when I walked back in. He just handed me his phone and said, I blocked them. A few weeks later, the wedding was officially canceled. My parents tried to keep it quiet, claimed it was mutual. But Ryan posted something simple on social media, a photo of the ocean, and the caption, relieved. Since then, it's just been us. Me, Ryan, and Noah. We're not some magically healed version of a family, but we're real now, and honest. Ryan comes over twice a week, helps with Noah's homework. Took him to a baseball game last month and bought him a hat he hasn't taken off since. My parents still send cards. I don't read them. Some are ripped before they even hit the kitchen counter. It took everything falling apart to see it clearly. Family doesn't mean loyalty. Love isn't automatic. Blood doesn't erase neglect. And peace. Peace is knowing I won't waste another second trying to earn something I should have been given from the start.